Hi guys, it's Mrs. G, and I just want to go over lessons 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3 with you before we move on. This is what Mrs. Pellegrini and I wanted to do on Friday when we set up the Zoom classroom, but it didn't work too well. So I just want to review before we go on to 10.4, which we'll do tomorrow. So this chapter starts our geometry unit, as we said, and the 10.1 lesson is on lines, rays, and angles. So I'm not going to be going over everything, but I will show you the answers to the homework pages, and if you have any questions at all because you didn't get that particular answer, just let me or Mrs. Pellegrini know. You can email us, and we will certainly work it through with you. But let's just look, because on the unlock the problem part on page 549, this is very critical. So let's take a look. So for the first term, a point, that's an exact location in space. And we draw it like this. It's a point, a dot, and with a capital letter. How we read it, we would read that as point A. And then we write it as point A. So that's like word form. That's how we read it. Okay. Now the next one is a line. A line is a straight path of points that continues without end in both directions. And what's really important, before we left the classroom on that last day, we were explaining to you that you want to think of a line is to infinity and beyond. They have to have those arrows on both sides. That makes it a line and not a line segment. Okay, so a line has those points, the arrows on both sides. And I could read this as line BC, or I could read this going the other direction, line CB. It doesn't matter. It's almost like the commutative property. How I write it is, notice the icon of the line is above our uppercase letters. So that would be BC and the line icon. And again above CB with that line icon. But I read it as line BC or line CB. And the book wanted you to think of a line down the middle of a roadway. Okay. Now, a line segment, it's almost like a syllable, that a word or a syllable is a word or a part of a word. So this is a part of a word or a part of a line. And a line segment is a part of a line between two endpoints. So I'm actually going to have the point on the ends of that line. That is a line segment because that point represents a stop. Okay, that's a stopping point. So this is line segment DE, or I can read it as line segment ED. Notice how I write it. It's just a solid line above the two capital letters, unlike up above. When I'm referring to a line, it has the arrows to indicate it goes to infinity and beyond in both directions. But a line segment is just a part, so it stops. So that's why it's just a line, DE, or line segment, sorry, that was line segment DE, or line segment ED. And it wants you to think of this shape. Think of the triangle, and I'm looking at these lines here. So this would be a line segment, because all of your shapes are made of line segments. And then here's the other line. Oop, get you in the camera here. The other line. And then, of course, up above the other line. It's hard to film this with one hand. Okay. Last but not least is our ray. So you think of the sun. The sun is the source, right? So if I have my sun, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun. So here's my sun. And from the sun, I have the rays that come out of it. So I start out of source, the power source, that's the sun, and all that comes out of it are the rays. So this really is the same process. A ray is a part of a line that has one endpoint, that's the source, that's the sun, and continues without end in one direction. It goes out from the source. Here's my source, and it goes out from the source. Now, the difference with the ray is that can only be read ray FG. It cannot be read as GF. It cannot. You have to start at your end source and go out. So again, that's why I always say, think of the sun. You start at the source and go out. And that's how it's written. Here we go. So this is ray. So it's the icon, a straight line with the arrow. And this is ray FG. And they want you to think of it as a one-way signal, because that's exactly what it is. That ray, that's a ray right there. Now, it wanted you to draw and label. What does that say? Well, if I didn't put my line for my ray there, that says line segment JK. So all you needed to do was take your handy dandy ruler, which is why we gave out rulers to you. Ooh, is this gonna stand? No, of course you're not gonna stand. That's okay. I'm borrowing Baby Pete's little stand here. Okay. So taking your handy dandy ruler, and you could do this in any direction, you just have to make sure that you have endpoints. If you did this correctly, let me just show you. And one has to be J, and one has to be K. Now, could you have done it the other way around? Could you have labeled that K and that J? Sure, not a problem. But it says here, is there another way to name line segment JK? And of course there is. Yes, the answer would be yes. So I could name it line segment, and they really want you to use the icons. So line segment, instead of JK, I could go KJ, making sure those are uppercase letters. And they want you to explain, because when naming a line segment, either point can be named first. And remember, that's the same thing with a line, but never ever with a ray. A ray can only be named in one direction. Okay? All right, so now we move on to angles. So let's look at this. An angle is formed by two rays or line segments that have the same endpoint. The shared endpoint is called the vertex. So Q in this example is my vertex. And I would have ray QP, that's a ray, or QR, because remember, that ray starts at that endpoint and goes out. I can read this angle as angle PQR. I can read it as angle RQP, or I can just name it by its vertex, angle Q. And here's how you write it. So here's the icon for angle. And they want you to think of a pizza slice, and we love that because we always talk about food and 4PG. All right, you can name an angle by the vertex when you name an angle using 3 points. The vertex is always the point in the middle, always, always, always. Angles are classified by the size of the opening between the rays. Now, you had this last year in 3rd grade, so this is just a review. A right angle forms a square corner. So I always like to take like a handy dandy Post-it note. Let me grab one. These Post-it notes are really nice and easy to work with. And the corner, of course, that's a right angle. And I'm just going to put it right in there. And you can see that is a right angle. And that is the icon, that square, that indicates a right angle. A straight angle forms a line. So that's easy. Just a straight angle. An acute angle is less than a right angle. So if I look at this angle here versus this one here, I can see that it's less than, because if I put my handy dandy Post-it note right in there, the top ray is smaller than my 90 degrees. I can see that because then over here, an obtuse angle, I call him the big boy. He's greater than a right angle and less than a straight. So if I put my right angle right here, and this is actually a good introduction to when we get into measuring angles, because when I use my protractor, I have to put the bottom right on 0. That vertex is 0. And the bottom has to be on that bottom line. And you can see if this was 90 degrees, I would have had a line like right here. But I'm going to pull the Post-it note away. You can see that this is bigger than 90 degrees. He's the big boy, so he's obtuse. And acute. He's so small. He's so cute. That's how I remember it. Okay? All right, ha ha. All right. So then it wanted you to figure out what kind of angles are these. We'll just review these really quick. You could have, if you did that page, you could have taken a piece of paper. We would have if we were in class, but you didn't have to. This, of course, I'm just going to write O, because that's obtuse. He's the big boy, because it's right here. You can see right here. He's the big boy. And of course, he's smaller than my 90 degrees. So he's acute. I'm going to just call him an A for now. Okay? And then this one here, if you were to have put like a Post-it note or a piece of paper in there, you can see that this one, it's almost a right, but it's not. This one is actually smaller than a right angle. This is acute. And then if I put my Post-it note right in there, you can see that this is a right angle. I'm going to put an R for right. Okay? All right, so those are your answers for that. Then they had you doing all this other stuff where you had to draw out and then you had a label. And I hope you did your best. That's all we ask of you. But let me just review down here. I'm not going to go over drawing it out, but I do want to look at this. It wanted you to use this figure here, figure F, for these 6 questions, and it wanted you to name a ray. And what you could have said, I see a ray right here. Let's see. You could have said ray BC. You could have said ray BK. I'm going to actually use BK, but what's really important here is they wanted you to write it like this, capital B, capital K, and they wanted you to go like this. They wanted you to do the icons, okay? Line, they want you to name a line. All right, I can do that. I'm going to label this one. I'm going to go AC. That would work. I'm sure what you have down is also a line. Just make sure it goes from end to end and to infinity and beyond. But what's important is I'm going to say AC, but I need to use the icons above it. So they look like that. Okay. So if you don't have that, can you just change that in your book? We're using the icons. That's how we're writing it. Number 14, name a right angle. Well, I see one right here. They have it labeled. I'm going to use that. And that would be PRC. You could have done CRP, or you could have just done angle R. I'm going to take a shortcut, okay? And I'm going to go angle R. But again, like I said, you could have had it labeled angle PRC, or you could have done CRP. But making sure that vertex has to be in the middle if you name it with the 3 letters. And 11, name an obtuse angle. I'm going to do A, B, K. I can see that right here. This is bigger than a right angle. So I'm going to say, here's my angle icon. Angle A, B, K. Now it wanted me to name a line segment. Well, if I go from B to R, that would be a line segment, so I'll do that. BR, and the icon for that is just a straight line above. That means line segment. And last but not least, name an acute angle. So I see that KBR right here, this is less than 90 degrees. I'm going to name that KBR, and making sure that I don't forget I need to do my angle icon right there. Okay? All right, and then the rest were the problem solving. A lot of our friends in the past, number 18 is a little tricky because there's so many of them. Look, I have little checks next to it. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You could have definitely used your QR reader for that as well. Don't forget you have that on your Chromebook. And the fox or the guy or the girl, sometimes it's a girl, sometimes a lady, she'll walk you through it. But here's the answer. So I'm just going to show you the answers that are in my book. And then here's the answers for the Think Smarter.
Did you bring my car?
And then also, let me show you the answers for the next page. This is the homework paper. If you had done that, just making sure that you're using a ruler. Okay. And again, you can pause this at any time. And now I'm going over to page 554. So here's problem 1 and 2. And then the spiral review. Here's my answers on the spiral review. If you don't understand how they got the answers, just let us know and we'll be certain to go over that. Now let's just look at our problem of the day, which is 10.1, and it's Allie. And so let's take a look at that. It says, Allie needs your help. Use letters and correct symbol to name the figure below. Well, we just went over that. So in case you forgot, let's look, take a look. So here we go. The only answer for that, it's going to be array A, B. Okay, that is your answer for that one. It cannot be Ray, B-A. And also, they wanted you to use a correct symbol. So don't write Ray, A-B. All right, this is the answer right here. This is what they're looking for. All right, so that's 10.1. Quickly, let's look at 10.2. 10.2 was classifying triangles by angles. So again, we know that a acute is smaller than a 90 degrees. You have a right angle, which is 90 degrees. And then you have the big boy, the obtuse. All right, so the only thing different in this lesson is here's my icon. when I'm naming a triangle. And a triangle, again, I could name this all these different combinations. Triangle BAC, I could go ABC order, I could go ABC, all these 6 combinations. And then this one here, they wanted you to color code the right angle red, an obtuse angle blue, and the acute angles with orange. So I'm just going to give you the answers here. So this is an O. Those are acute angles. So that should be orange. So I'm just putting an O in there. This one here is a B because it has one obtuse. Here's the obtuse right here. You can see that that is greater than a 90-degree angle. This one here, they gave us the answer. That's the right angle. So that one should have been red. This one here should also be red because it has one right angle. And this one here should be red because it has one right angle. Those are like the easiest, I feel. And then this one is a right angle too. Now, I'm thinking that this is a big boy. Here's the big obtuse angle right here. So that should be, oops, sorry, I'm putting an O for obtuse. That should be a B for blue. Okay. And over here, there's nothing that's greater than 90 degrees. This angle isn't. Remember, I can tell where the angle is by where it meets. Here's another angle, and here's another angle. But none of those are big, and they're not 90. So this has to be the acute. So that would be a red, an orange color. Orange. And then this one down here, oh, I'm seeing something. Here's a little baby one. He's so cute. That's small. This one is cute. He's small. But this guy here, this angle, oh, he's a big boy. So he's got to be the obtuse. That would make this an obtuse angle. So if one of them is obtuse, the whole triangle is obtuse. If one of them is a right angle, the whole triangle is a right angle. And if they're all acute angles, then it makes it all acute. All right, I'm going to just move on just because of timing. I don't want you to be falling asleep here. All right, so up on the top, an acute triangle is a triangle with 3 acute angles. So all 3 have to be acute. An obtuse triangle is a triangle with 1 obtuse angle, and we were just talking about that as well as this one. A right angle is a triangle with 1 right angle, and you can see that. Now the rest for you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my answer key here, because they wanted you to classify these triangles almost like a Venn diagram kind of. So here's the answer key. Notice that it's the triangle icon. So making sure you have that. If you don't, please change that in your book, but it's really important that we're using the icons. Okay. Moving right along. Let me show you the answer key for the next page. This is page 557. Notice that they used the triangle icon. And then they wanted you to figure out what kind of angles were they. And here's the next section. And then the bottom, they wanted you to cross out the figure that didn't belong. And that's the reason why. And again, you can stop this at any time. Here's the next page if you got that far. If not, that's okay. Remember, you can always go back if you're bored. If you want to do a little bit more math, you can go ahead and do that. And here's the bottom. And then turning the page, if you did the homework, here's the answers to the homework on page 559. On the bottom. Of course, this part here is always left blank. So we're just going to skip that right now. And here's the lesson check for 1 and 2. And then here's your answers, the spiral review. And again, on the spiral review, if you did not get those answers and you can't figure it out, just let us know and we'll be happy to go through that with you. Now, let's look at the next problem of the day. So if we were to teach this to you in class, the next day we would be starting with lesson 10.3. And before we start with lesson 10.3, we would be giving you this ticket in. So Livy, she is the star of the day. So today Livy needs your help. Use figure ABCD below. Draw a line segment. Oh, so now it's telling you what to do. So it wants us to draw, sorry, I know I'm moving the camera here. I'm just trying to get the stand. Okay, so it wants us to draw a line segment from point B to point D. So here's B and here's D. So I'm going to draw a line segment as best as I can. Okay, here's my line segment. And then I have to name and classify the triangles formed. Well, I'm seeing that this right here, that's an acute. And over here, and I'm actually going to take a Post-it note, so I'm only looking one triangle at a time. And this one, this would be acute. But this guy here, to me, that looks like a... if I put it like this, that's bigger than 90 degrees. So both of those are going to be obtuse. Okay, so the answer on that one is triangle A, B, D, and triangle, oops, my bad, and triangle icon D, C, B, or you could have done the other way too. We've talked about that. You could classify, label triangles in many different ways. That could have been B, C, D. That's fine. Are both obtuse. They're the big boys. He's obtuse. Triangles. Okay? So that's how you would answer that ticket in. All right, so let's move on and let's take a look at lesson 10.3. Now 10.3 was all about parallel lines and perpendicular lines. And in the box, we have some more terms and definitions. We have intersecting lines are lines in a plane that cross at exactly one point. Intersecting lines form 4 angles, okay? So here's a crisscross, and this says line HI intersects with line JK at point X. That's where they meet, is right there. And then this is how I write it. Notice the line icons above. So line HI and line JK intersect at point X. Moving on, parallel lines are lines in a plane that are always the same distance apart. Parallel lines never, ever, ever intersect. They go to infinity and beyond, and they will never intersect. So line DE is parallel to line FG, and here's how I write it. Notice that the line icon is above, and those double lines is the symbol that means is parallel to. So if we were in class, Mrs. Pellegrini always likes to go like this. Here's my word parallel, and this would be in a different color. Sorry, I don't have a different color next to me right now, but You see in the word parallel, I have parallel lines. Okay, and last but not least, perpendicular lines are lines in a plane, a flat plane. So we're talking about 2D versus 3D. But those are lines in a plane that intersect just like here, but they form 4 right angles. So perpendicular lines are intersecting lines, but the intersecting lines are not necessarily perpendicular lines. Ooh, let me say that again. Perpendicular lines are intersecting lines because they intersect. But intersecting lines, they don't have to be perpendicular lines. So again, what makes it perpendicular is you can see here that they intersect and form right angles, 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So line LM is perpendicular to line NO, and then this is how we write it. So here's the line icon. That upside down uppercase letter T means is perpendicular to. So in this exercise down here, they wanted you to figure out if it's perpendicular, parallel, or intersecting. So let's see how you did. So if I go to that in my book, West 36th Street and Broadway, these are real streets, my friends. This is in New York City. So West 36th Street and Broadway, I can see that those are just intersecting lines. So I'm going to put the word intersecting. The next one, West 35th Street. So put your finger on that. And 7th. Ooh. Those intersect as well. So they're intersecting. But look, they're pretty special because both of them are completely straight. You can see when they're straight like that, they're going to form right angles. So those are not only intersecting, but they're also perpendicular. Did you get that one? Or did you get tricked? That one's a little tricky. All right, and last but not least, West 37th Street and West 36th Street, those lines will never meet. This is the grid of New York City. And that is correct, that those are parallel lines, okay? Those will never meet. So those are the most important things to know in these lessons. But let me just show you the answer key for the rest. So here you had a label. They gave you the one line already, and yet you had to label this here. So hopefully you made like an uppercase L, it kind of looks like. And then here's angle ZYX is the answer there. You can see the other answers. They wanted you to draw line segment QR for down here in the share and show. Number 1 is parallel to line ST, so you could have done them underneath each other like that. You could have done them up and down like this way, okay? That would have been fine too. And then here are some possible answers for the other ones based on this figure here. All right, so turning the page, again, they had you do a lot of drawing, but my friends, what's really important is that when you draw for 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11, make sure, this is where a lot of students have difficulty with this, or they forget, is that this says line segment. So making sure that you have endpoints for these. They had to be parallel. For this one here, this is a ray. So remember, I have my end point and it goes out. So you have to have the arrows at the end. If you were in class, Mrs. Pellegrini sends so many people back to their seat to fix it because they don't have the arrows at the end of the line there. You have to indicate that for a line and a ray. This one is a line segment, so those are just endpoints. Same thing down here. Here's perpendicular. So again, making sure that's nice and straight with your ruler. We label just before the arrow with those endpoints with the uppercase letters, but making sure that they have the arrows. If you don't have that, please fix it. Here's intersecting lines. You want them to intersect, and this one says at point X, so you needed the X in the middle. Making sure you have the arrows at the end, and the same over on this side. Okay, making sure you have the arrows at the end. Okay, so here's the possible answers for the next one. Did you get it? Good for you. And then over here, if you got that far, remember you can always use your QR reader on your Chromebook. Hopefully it works for you even at home. Here's just some possible answers. Notice in my teacher's edition it says possible answers. So you might have something else, but hopefully it's something very similar to that. And here's the answers to the bottom if you got that far. And if you did do the homework, here's the answers to the homework. This is on page 565. And on the bottom, when you get to the right part, you don't have to do those, friends. It's just good practice, but I can never, without fully explaining to you, I can never show you the answer because they'll never have it in my teacher's edition. And then over here on the top of page 566, that's numbers 1 and 2, making sure that you have the line segment icon. That's how they want you to write it. Okay, so get used to that with the icon. And then down here, here's my answers to those for the spiral review. Okay, so we're going to stop there for today. Actually, let me just give you, let me not give you. I think we're in good shape. We'll do the next one tomorrow, and that's it. All right, hopefully this was a little better for you today without looking on Think Central with the Fox. If you rather the Fox, you may certainly use that. But, you know, we'll figure this out as we go, which works better than the other. I know a lot of people had a hard time getting on to Think Central here and there, so hopefully this might be a little different for you and work out a little bit better. But have a great day and hope to see you soon. Again, if anybody has any questions, just let us know. Bye, guys.